rind? What about eel rind? What about coon rind? What about moon rind? What about hemp rind? What about moose rind? What about goose rind? What about lark rind? What about shark rind? What about fox rind? What about ox rind? What about hawk rind? What about goat rind? What about stone rind? What about plank rind? What about shrike rind? What about hare rind? What about bear rind? What about plant rind? Enough about human rights. What about hog rights? What about frog rights? What about kite rights? What about mite rights? What about bee rights? What about bee rights? What about stork rights? What about net rights? What about net rights? What about mouse rights? What about mouse rights? What about cat rights? What about rat rights? What about hawk rights? What about bug rights? What about slug rights? What about bat rights? What about ass rights? What about worm rights? What about germ rights? What about pork rights?